Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. Today we'll hear from Michael Godoy Jr, a freelance sales development representative based in North Carolina. Michael specialises in transforming cold leads into warm, meaningful conversations, all the while working fully remotely. Alongside his sales work, Michael also runs a freelance photography business and creates engaging content on YouTube. In this age of ever-increasing AI use, he offers an insightful perspective on how attitudes towards cold calling are evolving and shares practical advice for succeeding in what can often be a challenging industry. Michael, welcome to the Remotely Interested podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me here, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for taking the time out. I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to chat with you about your experience of remote working and work life in general. Okay, Michael, so to begin with, can you first tell me about the kind of work that you do? What is your job? And how and when remote working first became a feature of the way that you work?
Currently, I'm a freelance sales development representative. I was working for a company for a little while, and that was really awesome. And essentially what SDRs do is we just qualify, we try to do our best to qualify what are cold leads and turn them into warm conversations. We reach out via email, phone conversations I brought up before, LinkedIn, video messages. And we just really try to figure out if there's any problems there. And we try to have a conversation and see if our solutions can meet some of those needs and close those gaps for people. I was working for a company called FMX, which is a Facilities Management Express. They're based out of Columbus, Ohio. But the position I'm in is a sales development representative or an SDR.
So sales development representative. And what kind of company did you say it was to do with?
So this was for software, which was a little challenging at first. And I think you asked before when I got into it. So I would say we're in 2026. The ending of 2024, beginning of 2025 is when I really kind of jumped into the remote work, which was exciting. It was scary, but it was fun, and it's been fun so far. I love it.
Okay, so that's quite recent. So
Yeah.
previously you were doing this role in an in-person context, and then you're doing the exact same role, but now remotely. Is that correct?
You know what's interesting is before this, I started working in the railroad. That's how I started my professional career. So I started at 22 years old, working on the railroad, which was wild. And I did that for about 11 years. And out of that 11 years, about 7 of those combined was working in the night during the night shift in the PM. And that started to really, really take a toll on me and my family. I have an 8-year-old, and he's little and he's grown. And you're a different person when
Yeah,
the
I
nighttime
can
work.
imagine. When you're sleep
Yeah,
deprived, my
yeah,
word, yeah.
yeah. And my wife's cousin, he has worked in tech and working remotely for years. And he's been telling me for years, he said, man, you should get into sales. You'll be a great salesman. And I thought so too initially, until I started. But it was quite a journey. So I had a friend of mine who had a company who was hiring the company.
Mhm.
And she said, hey, you should apply for this position. And I was like, I don't know anything about sales. I deal with people on a regular basis in the railroad business. I was a team lead for a long time. So I had, employees that I worked with that were under me. But I was like, I don't think I have what it takes to work remotely or be in sales. She said, just take the interview. You never know, what can happen. I said, all right, I'll try it out. And my wife has worked remotely for years now. She's an educator and she works remotely and she loves it. So I said, you know what, I'll try it out. And it worked out. They gave me a shot and I've been doing it ever since.
Fantastic. Wow. So quite a radical career pivot then, we can say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perhaps was tech something that you were kind of interested in anyway, like outside of work?
A little bit. Initially, so I have a freelance photography company as well, that I run on the side. And I've always needed to build websites and, I've always had to talk to customers and have that face-to-face interface. And I always do consultations initially before I do a photo shoot. And that usually happens on Zoom or Google Meets or something. So I said, there's something there. I like that aspect of having that freedom, and that ability to just kind of go. And I love working with people. So I said, maybe, I'll try it out. Maybe that'll work out.
Yes, it sounds like a really good combination then of some of the skills that you'd already gained through a hobby, through your photography, and then
Yeah,
the experience you'd gained in work with people, and you're able to convey that remotely because of the experience that you've already acquired in person. Excellent.
exactly. Yeah.
And then the great example of your wife already making a success of working remotely. Was it an easy transition to move into working remotely?
Uh, for me initially, I thought it would be. I thought it really would be. I was like, we work from home. It's so, easy. But it wasn't for me initially. It was a little more challenging than I thought. Work, I kind of had my schedule. Um, I wake up, go to the gym, have my time, and I'm ready. I didn't realize how much work it would actually be working remotely. I think I kind of underestimated that. My wife and I would talk sometimes, and I would say things that were a little bit sensitive now that I think about it. But I'll say like, "Oh, you're just working from home. You have time."
Oh
Yeah.
dear.
And then when I started doing it, I was like, "This is a lot," and
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure, and there's more of an expectation too. I don't think people realize that when they jump into remote work. The fact is, a lot of employers feel that you do, and you do to a certain extent, have more time, but there has to be boundaries that are set.
For
Otherwise, you'll be
sure.
working 24/7 almost. So
So, so true. So, so true. And
you're always
especially when you
available.
just start in a role and you're keen and you want to prove yourself, it's easy
Yes.
for those boundaries to be forgotten. And like you say, you
Yeah,
find yourself working a lot more than what you even signed up for. So, yeah, I totally
absolutely.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, well, Michael, you've already talked a little bit about the freedom that you enjoy working remotely, being able to go to the gym, etc. I mean, are there any other aspects of working remotely that you think are really key positives that you've gained?
Oh, absolutely. Just having the freedom, I guess, to just handle, everyday life tasks, is really, really awesome. And fortunately, I was with a company that was very, very flexible. They're very understanding of that. Having a kid, something's always going on. They always have cooties and germs, so they always think you have an appointment. And my wife, working remotely too, with that flexibility. But her also having a chronic health condition, it gave me a lot of flexibility to be able to just go and do things and see family and take care of people, and do things in the community, volunteer, uh, and just have that time I didn't think I could really have before, which was really awesome. So it gave me that, and then you have that mental clarity of when I wake up. I know I don't have to deal with traffic or anything crazy like that. Which being in New York and then transitioning now to where I am in North Carolina, I can't escape traffic. So there's always something about that.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, you certainly have more control over your time, don't you? And I think that's a really nice point
Absolutely.
that you're able to be flexible and kind of check in with family and friends and other matters of life, all the while keeping your job going because of
Yeah.
that flexibility of movement, which obviously would not be possible if you had to be in place all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then avoiding that commute for sure. I mean, doesn't that reduce the kind of nasty surprises that sometimes you'd get? Oh dear, because of
Yeah.
traffic, I'm late. And then that has an impact on when you start, and that has an impact perhaps on when you're going to take a break or in meetings, and you can find yourself running the whole day. Whereas
Yeah.
if that's cut out completely, of course there are unexpected events, in life in
Yeah.
general, but that's at least one less to have to deal with. So.
Yeah. And even financially, there's more flexibility there. My vehicles get way less use. I use way less gas. So everything kind of went down, which I was really pleasantly surprised by. So less
Yeah.
maintenance on the vehicles, less gas. So that was really awesome too. And my insurance kind of went down from using the vehicle less. So that was pretty cool.
Oh,
So there's a
fantastic.
lot of unexpected, surprises too with remote work sometimes.
Yeah, that's a real bonus. Okay, Michael, well, you already talked a little bit about the challenges that you faced when you first began working remotely. So should we talk a bit more about sometimes the negative sides of working remotely and how you overcame them?
Yeah, sure. Especially for me in the role I am in sales, there's definitely sometimes a little bit of a threat of burnout, with working remotely. And that sometimes being attached to your phone, it's like an extension of your computer. You're on Slack, you're Gmailing, you're emailing. There's always someone to reach you at all times. So definitely getting burnt out was one of them. But overcoming that is just setting that balance, like we talked about before, having that work-life balance and letting your employer know, like, hey, I'm available during these hours, and I have no problem at times when required to work extra. Especially like you said before, right? You're trying to prove yourself and you're new in the role. But there still has to be boundaries so that there's that balance, which is super important for mental health too. I know a lot of people I know personally that worked remotely, and it worked out for them initially, but the mental health aspect of it for them was really challenging because it was a lot, and they just couldn't really kind of figure out how to manage both. But I was able to overcome that by just setting those boundaries, being balanced.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It can seem overwhelming at first, but if that structure is in place, boundaries are in place, and you communicate that early on as well, I think that's important to not be
Yeah,
afraid to communicate that even to your superiors.
yeah,
Better
yeah.
off that way than you say nothing and as you say, burn out. And
Hmm.
then you can't help anybody, you know. So yeah, certainly that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And in your line of work, Michael, are you obviously you're communicating with those that you're trying to sell to. Are you also part of a sales team with like fellow sales associates?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So there's a whole sales team, and there's different divisions. At least in the company I was at, there was different divisions divided up by schools and businesses. I was working in the local government sector, which was really awesome. So there's that sense of camaraderie, and we had weekly meetings about 3 or 4 times a week where we'd meet together as a team over Zoom or Google Meets, and we'd all meet up and talk about the challenges we're having, what success we were having, and then we got to celebrate each other that way too, which was really awesome.
Oh, that's really nice. Nice camaraderie. Okay, and
Yeah,
even as
yeah.
a freelancer then, do you have that kind of dynamic with associates from team to team? Does it work in the same way?
Not necessarily. It's kind of like get in, get out. You get a job. I do get to meet a lot of people, which is awesome. That's really good, especially having more resources and getting to know people and expanding that work network of getting to know people and them just helping you out and getting to speak briefly. But most of the time with the consulting is more like, hey, this is what we need. This is the assignment. Can you let us know what you think and then get back to us? So there's a lot of correspondence, but it's not necessarily that bonding or camaraderie.
Right. Okay.
That way.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
But nonetheless, the kind of people skills that you've learned are coming in handy in this job. You're having to engage, communicate, be clear to those that you're
absolutely.
selling to, and also those within the team, and you're consulting as well. Then you're offering a
Yeah,
consulting service.
yeah, yeah. My son's dad joke book helps out too, so I use it all the time.
Okay. To lighten the
Yeah,
mood, lighten the mood.
absolutely. Yeah, there you
Excellent.
go.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so people skills, super important in your role. Now that it's in this remote context, what kind of skills and personality traits do you think are important to make a success of the role remotely?
In this role, you're definitely gonna need some endurance. The sales development role, you hear a lot of no's, and especially the business I'm in is cold calling. Which is some people feel is a dying sport, so to speak. But there's a great book called "Cold Calling's Not Dead" or whatever, and it's a really good book. And no, I apologize. Cold Calling sucks, and but it still
Okay.
works, and
Yeah. I
it
don't know
does.
if that's better,
I
dead or
know.
stuff.
But what's awesome about it is, and in my experience is, there are days where it's great and you talk to people on the phone and they really want to talk back, and there's some days where they just want to talk. But now in the age of AI now, so many people they can see right through an AI message. Right? You go on ChatGPT and hey, I'm going to speak to Mary today. Give me a great script that I can have, and you would kind of know. Or if I
Yeah.
sent you an email and that response, you kind of know, like, I don't think his vocabulary is that good, or his punctuation. That's really good. Um, so having that human error, so to speak, too, and talking to people, and sometimes stumbling over your words or messing up or telling a joke, that helps a lot in that industry. So those are the skills you kind of need and have, and it's really interesting. It's fun.
Wow. That's really made me think because you said cold calling and I thought, oh, that is
Yeah,
a tough gig. That is a
yeah,
tough gig because we all know what we're like as well when we get an unexpected phone call. It's
yeah,
not necessarily welcome. However, it's true. The AI aspect now,
Hmm.
actual real human contact is a premium service now. It's
Yeah,
and perhaps, yeah, this will be the rebirth of cold calling, perhaps, in that
I
sense.
think so. Yeah.
We actually want to talk to people. We don't want to press five or record a
Hmm.
message and have it pushed through by a robot. Very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. So it's those people skills again. You have to you have to be sociable in that sense and engaging. Okay. All right.
Flexible.
Flexible and enjoy
Definitely
right. And
flexible.
the
Yeah,
endurance is there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What would you say is the secret to being an effective cold caller?
I have some teammates. I won't say their names, but they are so much better than I am at cold calling. I'm still pretty new, being a year in. But just not being afraid. I had a coach, Alex, and he was awesome. And he told me all the time, and Colin was another coach I had, and they told me all the time, just jump in, don't be afraid, be yourself, and kind of use your voice to your advantage. Like kind of get that DJ voice on and just pick up and don't be afraid and just go. So I think I don't know if there's a secret to it, but the best people I've seen are themselves and they're not afraid. And they're able to just be natural in the conversation. I got humbled very early on. All my friends told me, Mike, you would be a great salesman. Um, Dude, you'll be good at selling and all these things. But I realized very quickly on selling is really more about listening than it is about speaking. So it's really listening, finding those pain points, as they call it,
Yeah.
and finding out where people need help and how I could help them or how my service and see how that connects. And I have to do a lot less talking. Sometimes I ramble, I talk on a little. So
Mm.
people are like, you're a stranger, and you just call me and we're just talking. Hey, what's going on? What do you want? So,
Yeah. Okay, so it's that two-way communication. It's important, like you said, that it's not just one way. Okay, interesting. And then learning about what the need is. Because I guess essentially, you're not going to sell something if the person doesn't need it, or at least hasn't discovered a need during that conversation with you. So I guess that kind
yeah.
of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
In this AI age, perhaps we're going to be a bit more appreciative when we get a phone call.
yeah,
A cold call. I'm thinking about that now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so between you as well, with your associates as well, I guess it's a similar principle, communicating what you need to communicate, but also taking the time to listen to them and be a good colleague.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially building that community, like not having, we have usually like a sales kickoff once a year, and maybe two or three other times, where we meet together as a team. But part of my responsibilities was also traveling to trade shows, to gauge interest and meet people in person, which was fun. It's great. You get to go, I got to, visit all over the US and go to different states I've never been to, which was an incredible experience. But during that too, you don't always have that. And the times where you don't have that, where it's not trade show season, you can kind of get a little down sometimes with not having people. When you're going into the office, you get to see people. I know for me, I'm a very social person. Not getting that little high five or seeing that security guard that rusty for a few years, but not having that, it kind of can mess with you a little bit. So yeah, having that, being in person sometimes, but also building that community with my coworkers virtually is super important.
Yeah. Okay, so you've already been through this pain barrier. You've got a bit of experience now. But if there was a young man or woman who is going into their first sales job next week remotely, what would you say are the key things they need to get in place in their first week?
Um, I'm really old school. So I always advise getting a notebook and just writing things down, just having it. If I have a board behind me, you can't see it, but there are sticky notes everywhere, and check Slack and do that. So just being on top of those tasks, and not leaving things a chance, just kind of being locked in and focused on that. And just for me, I would advise that maybe get a notebook. It helps out. Just kind of putting everything. You got to write passwords down and things of that nature. There's a lot. You're gonna have to definitely at the end of the day unload after they offload. They download so much stuff in our brains and information they throw at you so fast, and it's all on the computer and your eyes. So definitely taking that time to kind of rest and maybe putting it somewhere else so you can remember a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think it's all part of that structure, isn't it? Making sure that you're structuring your time, structuring your ideas, and making the most of those interactions with your colleagues and your superiors as well, so that that information can be put to good use. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the notebook as
Absolutely.
well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In this line of work, what must you absolutely avoid doing as a cold calling remote salesperson?
Yeah, losing your temper. You're the first line of what someone will experience with that company or your company, right? So losing your temper, losing your cool, it's not great. In a way, you kind of have to have empathy because you are calling them out of the blue, and these people, these other people that you're trying to bring them a solution, but most of the time, these people are stressed out. They have their own personal lives as well as their professional lives, and they got a lot of stuff going on. So even though and they get so many calls. I spoke to a guy. He showed me his phone. He had 400 missed calls. So it would be silly. Initially, when I first started, I thought I was the only company that was cold calling. He said, "No, people call." I got like 14 calls in the last 8 minutes. So they're getting
Oh,
bombarded.
yeah.
So sometimes they might pick up and they might not be in the best mood. You know, they might have just hit their toe or something. Who knows? And they pick
Yeah.
up. That was an important call. And now they're hearing from Mike trying to sell them something. So they might not necessarily always respond super nicely. So
Yeah.
keeping that cool and trying to be empathetic and understanding, that's super important. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a do not do. Just gotta
Okay, losing your
keep
temper.
it cool.
And that's such a good
Yeah,
point as well. I guess
that
because
should
it's
help.
remote, you have
Mhm.
even less chance of knowing what's going on. If you were face to face, perhaps you could
Yeah,
gauge quickly what's going on with this person or even see a situation that's just unfolded that perhaps has put them in a certain state. But yeah, a
yeah,
remote cold call, you have nothing to go on. And so it's even more important to be empathetic. Yeah, I understand that. Goodness,
yeah.
400 missed calls. That's really building my
Yeah,
anxiety just thinking about it. That's
a lot of
horrendous.
these, a lot of these people, they get a lot of phone calls from a lot of different people, and there's multiple people trying to sell them something from almost every angle. So, for instance, if they work at a school, there's someone trying to sell them software for the school. There's someone trying to sell them software for their generators, or someone trying to sell them services for outdoors. And people are bidding on things, and that on top of whatever responsibility they have in person as well.
Yes.
So that's a lot sometimes.
And I wonder if perhaps there's more of a temptation to allow yourself to get angry with somebody if you're not in the same room with them. I don't know if perhaps amongst your colleagues you've noticed that the tendency to get angry with somebody is more frequent when it's remote than if the person's in front of you and perhaps there's a bit more restraint.
Yeah, absolutely. But interestingly, I had amazing coworkers, and they did a great job of kind of channeling that sometimes to make it a positive. I had a buddy who was really good. When someone would hang up on him or be really rude initially, he would take that and just email them after and say, "Hey, hey, such and such. I know you're probably having a bad day, and I hope I didn't make it worse, but this is how I can spend blah 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 blah." And I thought that was so cool to kind of take that and put a positive spin on it, and trying to
Wow, yeah,
be
that is
understanding
really
in that
good.
way too. Yeah.
If somebody had hung up on the phone and basically said, I'm not interested, to still
Hmm.
follow up with a nice, personable message.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really good for representing the company too. So they see, oh, okay, this company is a little different. So
Yeah, that
that
certainly
really
would
helps
stand
out.
out. That certainly would
Yeah, yeah,
stand
for
out.
sure.
And I guess if the message is just kind and empathetic and not necessarily pushing a sale, then that person wouldn't necessarily feel frustrated by that message.
Yeah. And you always leave the door open down the line. So
Yeah,
hey,
really
oh, I
nice.
appreciate it. Maybe you're busy now, but doesn't mean you'll be busy later. Or hey, this is a busy season, so maybe I'll contact you in a few months when you have a little more time,
Yeah.
which is not always ideal.
No. But hey, it doesn't cost anything, does it? And
Nope.
like you say, it opens the door in the future. I really like that. And I think that could be
Yeah,
applied to
yeah,
a lot of different things actually. In
yeah,
business in general, you have to face people saying no or not yet or not interested. But yeah, just leaving things nicely in that way. Um,
yeah,
good for the, like you say, the reputation of the company and probably actually for yourself, because at least you don't feel
yeah.
like you're taking on that negativity You've kind of combated that negativity with something positive.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I try to be as positive as possible. Be tell jokes and corny jokes and try to make it, work out in that way too. Because it takes a toll on you eventually.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
60 or 70 phone calls a day and hearing no and hearing we call them gatekeepers in the business. They're people that are their assistants that may be, an executive's assistant or somebody else that may screen the calls. So they might pick up too. And you get to know them after a while. So just cool if you're persistent and calling. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Okay. 60 to 70 calls a day. That is a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it can be more dependent on what you got to do, or if you're setting, if you've already set an appointment, you might have to make your regular 60 to 70 calls and then call on top of that
Mhm.
whoever you've already made appointments with to, make sure they're going to keep that appointment or reschedule.
Okay. Oh, well, I can certainly see why you said endurance is an important quality then for this role.
Yeah,
I can
for
see
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Random question. You talked about corny
Mhm.
jokes. Do you find that they have the same effect on everybody, irrespective of their age, or there are certain ages that the corny jokes work with better?
Oh man, it depends on who you're dealing with. I guess the title that we're going after.
Mhm.
There's some directors on the director level. I was surprised that some people were taken to it or were, happy or like, "Oh, okay, that's funny." And some people are just they might just be having a bad day. They're not too jazzed up. And there's a few times I used ChatGPT, which probably wasn't a good idea
Uh,
uh, to get some material.
Robot jokes. No, we don't want
Yeah.
robot jokes.
But yeah, people are usually pleasantly surprised. And opening up a conversation like that, it definitely helps versus because they're used to hearing the same thing. Hey,
True.
Mary, I'm calling from, such and such. How are you using such and such today? Is this, and they're like, oh man, come on, I don't have time for that.
Not again. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you kind of pick up and kind of let it all hang out and have a little fun, it's usually a better conversation, I feel at least.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Now, I only asked because I feel like the new generation coming through, the sense of humor is a bit different. And I think this
Absolutely.
generation has been so exposed to so much, online from birth that they
Yeah.
are definitely in the category of they've heard it all before. So I just wondered
Mhm.
how corny jokes would work with Gen Z. But I think
Yeah,
that
right.
remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, they can't give me the Gen Z stare over the phone, so it kind of works out. So,
True. Hey, remote work wins again.
yeah, yeah,
Gen Z there. I like it.
yeah. I do a
Yeah.
bad British, impression, and I try to. It's funny. I use it a lot on calls, and it helps me get through the door of people like if I keep calling an assistant and they pick up and they kind of know me already, like, oh, you called Wednesday, Bill's not available. I'll switch it up sometimes and I'll call and I'm like, hey, how are you? Good morning. I was hoping to see, I don't know if it's possible if Bill was available. If he is, I'd really appreciate some time with him. And it works kind of almost every time. They think I'm somebody else and they'll pick up.
That is
I
one way
get
to
to you.
stand out. That is one way to
Yeah, yeah,
stand
yeah. It
out.
works.
Okay.
It's
What
not
happens
great,
when
but it works.
you give the same name though? What happens when you give the same name? But maybe they've forgotten. So
So I try not to give my name, but I leave the pressure on them. So I'll ask a question normally, and that kind of throws them off. So, hey, Bill, how are you? What are you working on today? And, that throws them off. Like, what am I working on? What are you talking about? What do you mean I'm working on? Oh, yeah. So, I was looking at my notes here and it said, you're in this business. What are you working on today? And like, oh, I'm working on, this. Why do you ask? I'm like, well, I normally just call people to see if we can simplify some of their processes. And I didn't know if that sounded interesting to you. They're like, oh, well, it does. It's like, oh, cool. Have fun. It works. Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. Well, as you know, this is the Remotely Interested podcast about remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. So we've already had a lot of information about that. Now we're going to reach for the Mosaic Gold plate for a surprise question. I'll put it a bit further.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to pick something random. Okay, I'm not looking. What do we have? So, Michael, what's the most challenging part of building and maintaining relationships with friends and family back from where you're from?
Yeah. It's definitely tough to keep those creative friend juices flowing sometimes. I'm a very social person, and seeing my friends, we did a lot of activities together. all the time, and we have favorite restaurants that we try to go to, and we've built that kind of community and system together. So not getting to do that all the time is really challenging. But we try to fly out at least every 3 to 6 months to see family and friends, and that helps. And definitely because the pizza here where I live is not great. So getting that New York pizza
Hey,
is great.
priorities, priorities.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
you've moved from, did you say New York to, is it North Carolina?
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So how far between these two places from there?
On a flight, it's about an hour. Driving, it's maybe 11 to 13 hours. So I don't really like to drive much, but we usually fly out.
Incredible. I mean, you drive 11
Yeah.
hours in Europe, you've probably passed through a few different countries. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
long way. Okay, Michael. So you have some experience now, having made this pivot to remote sales. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you for the potential of working together, or maybe even just for some advice, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. My freelance photography business is there, but as far as the sales things at all, if anyone wants to reach out, to be on LinkedIn. I have that for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'll put all of those links in the show notes so that anybody
Thank
can
you.
get in touch with you. Yeah. Okay, and any final words for anybody else thinking about making that pivot? What would you recommend?
Definitely jump in. Jump in. The water's fine. It gives you and affords you an incredible work-life balance if you get the hang of it early on. But there's definitely so many advantages to working remotely, and it definitely it can improve your health. I'm able to be way more healthy, go to the gym and walk and take walks and do a lot of things with my family I wasn't really able to do before. Kind of being stuck to the building. So definitely jump in. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Fantastic. Good advice. Okay, Michael. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I've really appreciated it. Really enjoyed our chat. And there's lots of really interesting points for everybody listening to consider. So thank you so much.
Thank you too. I appreciate the opportunity to be on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
For Michael, moving into remote work was a major shift. Working remotely gave him more control over his schedule, more time with his wife and son, and the ability to build healthier routines like going to the gym and being more present at home. Remote work still depends heavily on human relationships. Michael's experience shows that success in remote roles is not just about productivity. It's about staying connected, personable, and intentional with people. As people are getting better at spotting AI-generated emails, scripts, and messages, a real human voice on the phone can feel more authentic, more spontaneous, and more trustworthy. Michael has noted that the small imperfections of real conversation, stumbling over words, making a joke, sounding natural, all of this can actually help build connection in a way that polished AI outreach often cannot. So, if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.